So, hello everyone. My name is Doris, and together with Jan, we are Terragami, which is basically an indie studio trying to merge the fields of climate communication, climate science, and game development. That's the idea. And what you can see here are the so-called climate stripes, and they are representing the global temperature changes. And as you can see, it's getting more and more in the reddish color. So the global temperature increased already about 1.2 degrees Celsius. And and our mission is to get that to blue again, which is the talk we want to present today. And here are some news like from this year, because like the 1.2 degrees is sometimes a little bit abstract. And as you can see here, the summer 2024 was again the hottest on record. But also when we look at recent things that happened, for example, the floods in Austria, we know that the likelihood of these kind of floods and heavy precipitation and then which led to floods are increasing. But also hurricanes, for example, this is nothing new that they are happening, but the intensity of them will change dramatically. Sorry. So these are just some examples of how we already feel climate change. But the question arises why you as game developers should care. Maybe you have this kind of intrinsic motivation that you just want to be part of the solution. Maybe there is an opportunity for you because the topic is so complex and have so many like great ideas to communicate via games. But also maybe publisher deals, which is a little bit tricky. Attention, definitely. And money. So we want to explore all of these and give you an idea what we're talking about. So let's start with the opportunity. Most of you probably know that there are around 100,000 games right now on Steam. So think about, what do you think? How many of them are climate change related? Just get an idea, get in a number in your head. 100. 100 of them are climate change games, and most of them are strategic games, like tactical games, like, for example, Civilization, which maybe one or two knows. And 0 of them are action climate games. So there is an opportunity. But also there was a study published a few years ago that 81% of gamers would like to see more environmental content in their game, if it's relevant to the game, to the experience. So there's the opportunity. And when we look at the board game industry, popular games have already started to giving their games like a climate twist. So they already see the opportunities. And so there is already a trend happening. But let's talk about money, because I think that's an important one. We noticed that many grants focus more and more on the topics of sustainability. For example, the Avias First Incubator, which is important for startups and so on, there the focus was like you get more and more points if you focus on sustainable development goals topics like climate change or diversity and so on. And we, as a team of Terragami, we thought that the Avias Incubator doesn't give this kind of grant anymore to game developers. But 2 weeks ago, we received the funding. So there is this opportunity. Thank you. And also Content Vienna has this like a special prize for projects that promote understanding the democratic processes, but also the creative industry project funds, where we talk about a little bit more money, which has a focus topic on climate projects and climate protection and environmental targets and so on. So as game developers applying for grants, this could be a USP for you. This could be an opportunity for you to really stand out, to focus on one sustainability topic. But on the other hand, if you're already interested in this topic, we would highly recommend to apply and look for science communication grants, because to be honest, that's where the money is right now. And this starts with smaller grants. For example, on the right-hand side, you can see the Understanding Science Funding, where we talk about 60,000 euros. But also, you can apply for a EU New Horizon project. These grants are huge, and obviously, as a one-person indie studio, that won't work out. But working together with a university or NGO, there are unlimited possibilities, and you should really look into that because, like I said, that's where the money is. And in terms of science communication, you are the unicorns and yeah, the big opportunity. And also just a shout out to Decarbonize because they got funded by such a project from the European Union from the One Planet for All project grant. But also like money thing is important, but also media attention wise. Some of you might not know us yet, the Terragami studio, but we are working on Climate Survivors, wishlist now, and which is basically a climate vampire survivors game. And everyone who has played it already knows that this is a really, really small concept demo, so we're at the beginning of our journey. However, we already got media coverage from ORF and Ö3 and the European Climate Pact, because everyone is wants to show projects in the area of sustainability. Of course, this is where you only reach a specific crowd, but there's the opportunity also there. In the end, if you're not really into climate change, I got some good news for you. There are many more crises and problems to solve around sustainability. These are the Sustainable Development Goals. For those who don't know it yet, this is basically your mind map for problems to solve around sustainability. So really look into that if you want to work in that field. So, but now being part of the solution is also a big intrinsic motivation. And here Jan is now taking over, but here are some interesting ideas for you to do in your private life.
But of course, we're not here just to talk about your private life. Even so, take-home message. If you forget everything else, remember this. This is already a win for us. But of course, game developer-wise. So step one, you want to do sustainability in games. So just keep on doing what you're doing. And I hope that that's being successful as game developers. Because if you're not successful, all of the following points are kind of moot. Because they bank on you reaching people. Step two, whatever you build it green. And so what does this mean? Of course, we heard a bit about code optimization and copy-paste and all these things that we all know too well. So there's the baseline of cleaning your code that it doesn't eat more resource than it needs. I know, again, thinking optimistically. But there's also features you can actually build into your code or into your game to, I guess, enforce that a little bit. So, for example, Modern Warfare 2 has, and an increasing number of games has something called an echo mode in the lower parts here. What that does is, in their specific case, only in menus, of course, no panic, for the shooter fans, only in the menus it reduces frame rate and resolution. And you may not notice, but people in these kind of games spend around, what was it, one quarter to 1/3 of the time in lobbies and menus. And the minimal approach, which is still capped at 60 frames per second, saves about 30% of energy, and the full mode, which is 30 frames per second, is about 50% energy saving, which is, across the user base of Modern Warfare a huge amount. And since this is now not a new game anymore, we now actually have retention rates for this. So 2 months after they launched this, they looked into this, and cool guys, console players, actually stuck around with that mode for about 90%, and 2% actually increased to the full mode. So, minimal is the default option here. While PC players really, really like their 120 frames per second in their menus, so about 20% reduced to the off mode. There's a few newer games that I like to see here. The Elder Scrolls Online. Elder Scrolls Online is actually something that I was in the community team when it launched, so I'm very happy to see that they also implemented this, and our very own, as in not our team, but Austrian Hurdles, that you can play over there. So they're probably over there. I like to think they heard our talk, picked it up, and implemented something similar where they took us, what they do, for example, is they, whenever you go into the option, into the pause mode, they take a screenshot, deactivate the 3D rendering, and just show you the most recent scene, which is very good for energy savings. So, the second aspect to this is sufficiency is beautiful. Sufficiency in the sense of graphical sufficiency. So most of you, I assume, have played Breath of the Wild, and you know it's a beautiful game, even though it is not exactly looking like Crysis. And that is still my reference, even though that game is like, what, 15 years old? And similar Team Fortress, nearly 20 years old, still super popular, still looks, well, beautiful as in the eye of the beholder, but has a very consistent style that ages very well, let's put it that way. If you want to build the next Crisis, don't not do that, but keep in mind, games can be beautiful if they look different. So, and the big aspect, of course, is that everyone expected show some green. Yeah, I know the talk is called We're Going Blue, but the green is the go-to reference here. And what does green mean? So green activations have been shown to be very effective if you go for these 4 things. So hope, like whatever the issue is, you have hope that it can actually be solved. Knowledge, what is the issue, what is the source of the issue, and what can you do or what can be done to solve the issue. Self-efficacy plays into this. I, as a person that has to be convinced to become active, actually feel that that has a point. And attitude means I care about everything surrounding the issue. So in the terms of climate, we, for example, are actually literally cleaning out our basement right now because we have to, well, dry it. But so that definitely creates attitude towards the issue, but also if you care about migration, if you care about your fellow human being, if you care about animals more than humans, that's also a valid approach. Our logo is literally a mouse that was extinct, has gone extinct due to climate change for that reason. So tackling these kind of aspects, and not necessarily all of them, you can, if you're an overachiever, is a very good approach for this. So you can be subtle about this. So the upper one is a game in development, martial arts tycoon, Brazil, very important. And if you look very, I should have zoomed in on this. So in the lower right corner of that screenshot, you maybe see a thermometer. That tells you that while this is a tycoon where you train, you manage and train people who then punch each other's face in, you want them to be healthy while they train. So you have to consider what temperature is, because heat waves are a thing. You cannot solve that problem here. So there's not like a climate model in the background where you do things and then the heat isn't as hard, but you can adapt. So, and that sounds very basic, but you train on a rooftop, you build a roof over them, now they're in the shade, so the heat is less of an issue. Plain example. So this is a game that teaches about adaptation, and hope in the sense of even if the problem becomes worse, we can deal with it. Bear and breakfast, you are bear, you have a bed and breakfast, you host people and you cook for them. So this game, actually it also tackles climate issues because the background story is a huge wildfire back in the day. Humans are coming back now, great. But they still want to eat food, and all of the foods in this game are vegetarian or vegan, which is, if you paid attention to that slide earlier, one of the easiest solutions on an individual basis to tackle the issue to some degree. So while this game doesn't tell you eat vegetarian food, climate change is going to be less bad, probably, it still normalizes this well, default food option. It's still a bit weird though. You can, as a bear, buy eggs and milk to feed to other animals. Strange dynamic. You don't have to be subtle. You can be very direct. So Decarbonize or our own climate survivors are very straightforward in what they're about, what the issue is, how systems interlink, how you can solve them. In our case, you literally punch climate hazards in the face. It doesn't get less subtle. So these are valid approaches as well. For one, you don't have to worry about if your food message, bear and breakfast, is too subtle. So there are downsides, of course. But on the other hand, some people, games shouldn't be political people, might not be fans of that approach. Be Austrian. So we have, I know both teams should be here today. So Want to Be Free are right now working on Discovery, and Still Alive have created Garden Life. And Garden Life, which in general is a very chill, well, garden life simulator, has a DLC where they advertise for upcycling and circular economy. So you use, well, that's not on the screenshot, but you basically use waste and then put your plants in it and make it look nice. And Discovery is a action RPG that plays in a world ravaged by climate change, where you see coral bleaching, and these corals actually have been swept out from the ocean onto the not so oceany ground anymore. So the background story here is very direct. So find these people, talk to them if you want to discuss this. So you want more inspiration for exactly these kind of things, there's the, I definitely forgot the name right now, the Inspiration for Sustainable Greener Games, a project that was created by the IGDA Climate SIG, which I'll get to in a second. There's some of these resources we shared with you, for example, last year already. So the game design playbook is still very essential. The developer's field guide is basically the video version of that if you're not a reading person. And a new report, Game for Climate Action, also features interviews with a lot of different developing studios that have tried or are working on things in the field and sharing their experiences. Also, for example, the lackluster feedback of publishers. That's what Doris hinted at earlier, that these are not quite on the board game level yet, but we'll get there. Exactly. So we have Playing for the Planet, which is a large UN organization where Ubisoft, Sony, all the big players and more smaller players come together to, well, play for the planet. Green Activations, newly founded, the Sustainable Games Alliance is out there to create standards for the games industry. How are we tracking what we're doing actually to the environment, and how are we dealing with EU regulations, for example, that are coming for you, the CSRD, the Green GCD, Green Claims Directive. If this doesn't mean anything to you, don't worry about it yet. That'll be something for next year. And like I just mentioned, the IGDA, so the International Game Developers Association, Special Interest Group Climate. They have a Discord, and we messed up the we messed that up with the layering. And of course, if you don't remember anything else, just remember our email if you want to talk about this, so we can talk about it and get you all the other stuff. And that's it already. So. Any questions? If not.
Okay. You know the drill. Gifts for everyone. You get a gift. So. You're not done yet. Any questions? We're a little bit, now our timetable is a little bit tighter, but any questions? Yes, no, maybe? Ah, okay. Then you take this and I take this.
Yeah, or we can also take a talk
no
in the break.
No problem.
Okay.
Question. Time for a couple of questions. Oh.
Hi, thanks for the talk. It was super interesting. You said like you ended up getting a grant from the ABS, even though officially it's not really doable right now. How?
So the thing was that also the jury, some of them were focusing on the topic of impact. It's always impact, which is basically doing something in the area of sustainability. And when we applied there was this like 4 days of workshops and presentations and so on. And this was really the USP for us, that we said, okay, we are focusing on climate change, climate communication. We want to show some impact. I mean, it definitely helped that we have that we're not just us. We have a cooperation with the International Institute for Applied System Analysis, a research university, let's say. So that definitely helped. Yeah, I mean, there were other projects also working in the field of sustainability, but it was like from 20 that applied, that got in the second round. It was like 4 of them who had a focus on impact. Yeah. So that's, and the thing is like, this is also a take-home message maybe, every single game you do, like everything has a potential to frame it in the way of sustainability. If you say like, yeah, we were doing it at a lower resolution for the climate, but maybe you can't do it in a higher resolution, it doesn't care. Like it's always about framing. And if you're not sure how to frame it, then just write us and I'm sure we will find something.
Just put in the echo mode.
One more question.
Hi there. Thank you for the interesting talk. I was wondering if we take a look at the current, political climate, we can kind of assume that there is not so much open-mindedness when it comes to climate change or sustainability in general. I was wondering how you believe or think we can approach those people, make games that are, well, still leave them interested, and not that they, turn off the game because they say, oh, this is bullshit, this is climate change, I don't care about that. So what do you think?
Yeah, so that was actually our motivation, because most of the climate change games that are out there are really dry, boring educational games which drop information. So, and also we noticed that like the most feedback climate scientists get is like they are just not fun. And I think that's exactly where we need to change. We need to, of course, this is a highly emotional and difficult topic, but we need to give it a fun twist and make it like change it in a creative way and frame it in different ways and just make it fun. I think that's, yeah.
Also, there's about 20% people have just given up on, focus on the other 80.
Truth be told. Okay, give it up one more time.